Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am LaShawn, your host. And friends, I am overwhelmed. You ever have a moment in life where everything is happening at once and you just can't get yourself together? I know it's a season and I know that once I get through it, everything will be fine. But truth is, I'm tired. But this weekend, I spent a lot of time in bookstores and it really just calmed my soul. I visited a new bookstore in my area that is solely dedicated to romance, and it was love at first sight. There is nothing, friends, nothing like talking to people who also love romance and who buy physical copies of books. I mean, I feel like we are all a special breed now because mostly everyone either listens mainly or they either buy most of their books on Kindle or even they just go to the library. So I feel like those of us who actually still buy books to put on our bookshelves, even if they're just trophy books, I think we're a special breed. But I loved it. I loved my time at the bookstore. I made recommendations and I got them from people. And friends, it was such a community and I loved every minute of it. And I will be back to visit them next month when I go get another book. But today, my friends, I received a question from a listener and I thought it would be a good topic to discuss. Her question or her request was, could I discuss the StoryGraph versus Goodreads? And I felt like this was perfect timing because I just decided this month to fully go in using the StoryGraph exclusively. And I wanted to talk about why. Warning, this episode may be for book nerds, specifically book nerds who like to track what they are reading. So let's start with some background for those who are unfamiliar. Some of us readers love tracking our books. We like clicking that we started a book. When we're halfway through a book, we like to track our progress. And finally, we like to check that complete button because we want the stats at the end of the year so we can look back and see what we read, what genres we read, how many books we read. And we also love reviewing books also. So that is a thing. Enter Goodreads. Goodreads has been, I will say, the standard of online book tracking since January of 2007. By July of 2012, I believe, their site had reported 10 million members, 20 million monthly visitors, and 30 employees. And Amazon decided to go ahead and purchase the site in March of 2013. And it has grown steadily every single year since. What most people like about Goodreads is the ability to keep track of what you read, the ability to review books through a 5-star rating system, how you can group your books by list, you can join community groups, you can enter giveaways, which has anyone ever won a Goodreads giveaway? If you have, email me. Just let me know because I never have in the many years I've been on there. But anyway, they've got annual book challenges, and they even have Goodreads awards where they award prizes. Well, like it's an award based on reader input every year. You know, you vote about best books. So it is the place to rate and review books. But Goodreads has its limitations. The interface is clunky. It is literally the wild, wild west in terms of moderation. I mean, anybody can say anything. And Goodreads has been unable or maybe even unwilling to handle review bombing, which is where people will flood a book with negative reviews, often without even reading the book, which can lead to books being pulled from publications and publishers cutting marketing budgets. At first, I used Goodreads because it was what everybody else was using. Plus, it had the added advantage that if I started a book on my Kindle, since it's Amazon owned also, it automatically logs that book in my Goodreads as started and it marks it as finished when I'm done. And I can rate on my Kindle and it will transfer over to Goodreads. So yes, you still have to manually add in audiobooks and physical books, but still the app is right on my phone. And again, it is or was convenient. And convenience was all I thought I needed until I didn't. Um, I heard about the StoryGraph sometime in 2022, I believe, but didn't join until the end of 2023 when I imported all of my books from Goodreads and signed up for the free version just to see what it was like. I had heard the platform was Black owned, Black woman owned, and I wanted to support. So, but I kept forgetting to log in for like the entire year. I completely forgot about it. Then came 2024 and I came back. I looked into the premium subscription. Somebody I follow on Bookstore was talking about it. So I looked into the premium subscription, which is, they call it StoryGraph Plus. It's $4.99 a month or $49.99 annually. And I realized that I liked StoryGraph, what StoryGraph was offering better than I liked Goodreads. And I also realized that I was willing to pay for it. And this month, like last week, literally, I moved exclusively to StoryGraph. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you the ways. I've got 10 reasons why I moved. So let's move through it. Number one, like I said before, it's Black woman owned. I am always looking for ways to support Black women because, I am one. Number two, the interface online and on the app is clean and it's functional. And I don't feel like I have to click here, there, and everywhere just to see what I'm currently reading and what I already read this year. Even searching for books to see the ratings others have left and other reviews seems to be easier to me. Number three, I love the fact that you can pick what edition that I am reading. I can choose between digital, physical, and the Audible edition specifically to track. I read a good combo of both, so this was very important to me to be able to track exactly what edition of a book that I am reading. For instance, like on Goodreads, you can only track the percentage or the page number. When you track an Audible book, you can track like the time on the book and it will track where you are. And I love the fact that I can do that. So it's one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, I love it. Number four, the rating system. You can give so much detail with just a click. Was it fast paced, medium paced, slow? Was it character driven or was it plot driven? You can add in trigger warnings, and that's even before you get to a rating or a review, which you don't even have to leave what I would consider a complete review. You can give people a good idea of how the story flows without having to actually give a review. But number five, but if you decide to leave a rating, the StoryGraph has half rating system. I cannot tell you how many times I've said to myself, this book isn't a 5, but it's a 4.5. Or this book isn't quite a 3, but I'd give it a 2.75. Those quarter ratings are key for someone like me who is very deliberate and detailed in their reviews. Next, number 6, useful book stats with the StoryGraph Plus subscription. Listen, I am a stats nerd. I want to know how many pages did I read last month? What percentage were Kindle books? What percentage were romance, fantasies? What percentage were writers of color? Were they hardback? Were they Audible? StoryGraph tracks all of that for you and then spits out these pretty pie charts that just makes my little heart sing. I love it. Number 7, when you log in, you can see what you're reading, what's popular that week. You can see recommendations based on the survey that you take about what you like to read. You see your recent reads, and you can see what similar users who read like you do loved and are reading. It is really good for community and is good for when you are just like, I need something to read. It's a good place to start. And I have found several books to read using that section of the StoryGraph. Number 8, buddy reads. My friend Jennifer and I read Onyx Storm using a combo of text messages, the buddy read option, and the buddy read option on the StoryGraph. You can leave comments on it, and it won't show your comment until they reach the same point as you are. So it keeps your comments spoiler free, but it also keeps a conversation going, and it makes you eager to get to where. And it's funny because I used to go in to leave a comment, and based on where I was, like one of her comments would pop up where I had seen that it was hidden, but now I finally hit the spot. And so, I mean, it's just really fun. It is a really great feature. Number 9, you can host a book club on the platform. I really have to figure this out. I know someone who is currently doing it, and I have to speak to her to figure out how she's doing it, because this might be the move for the Pouring Over Books book club next year. We shall see. But I'm really looking forward to utilizing that feature from the StoryGraph. And number 10, the platform is being continuously updated. And if you follow the StoryGraph on IG, you hear a lot about upcoming details, things that they are testing out, and they keep you informed. And I love the fact that they keep trying to improve the platform, and they keep trying to do things that the readers want. Like, they listen to feedback and they actually implement it. So I really feel like that part of it is a community also. And I just really love it. Last year, I used both Goodreads and StoryGraph at the same time. I would have to remember to track the StoryGraph, and usually I would do it like a month later. And I know I forgot something because the numbers did not add up. But this year, I made the decision to track StoryGraph first. And frankly, I kept forgetting to go over to Goodreads and add things in. And finally, by this month, I was just like, the only thing that got automatically added in over there were things that I was reading on my Kindle, where it just automatically added it in. And I was like, finally, I just made a decision just to go all in on StoryGraph because it works for me. Do I miss having my Kindle books automatically update? Yes. But considering that I am reading more physical books again and books on other platforms, and I'm listening to audiobooks, it really wasn't as much a factor that I could hang on to anymore. And plus, I just love the stats, the half ratings, and all the extra features. And yes, I know I could just do a spreadsheet and do all of my tracking, but I am not the one, friends. I hate spreadsheets. I use them at work, and I don't want to see them on my downtime at all. And I know one of the cons for me initially was also having to pay for it. But the old saying, you get what you pay for, is really, really true. And it's worth it to me. Even, if you want to do monthly, if you're one of those people who want to break it up monthly, I just went ahead and paid for it up front, $49.99 for the year. So I was like, that's like me going for, some coffee a few times. So I was like, it is okay. And frankly, what I did was, since I renewed in January, I used some Christmas money, and that's how I got it. It was like one of my Christmas gifts to myself. And so the way it's situated next year, same thing will happen. So that is why I made a switch from Goodreads to StoryGraph. And I hope that the listener who asked that question is happy with my answer. And I hope it helped someone or some of you learn more about the StoryGraph and think of joining too. I will leave a link in the show notes so that you can check it out and learn more and maybe join us over there. Even if you just start off with the free version, because I used the free version for a while and it was perfectly fine. So, hey, you just don't get like some of the pretty stats. Other than that, I say try it. Now, let's get into what's currently going on in my world. Let's start with what I'm currently reading. I am currently reading Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, which is the third book in the Legendborn series. It actually arrived on release day. Barnes & Noble was on time. And I had to finish the second book before I got started. But yes, I'm currently reading this one. I am actually taking my time. I'm resisting the urge to rush through it. It is my bedtime book. So every night I have a stack of books on my bedside. I usually only read hardback books at my bedside table at night just to minimize some screen time for myself. And it is my bedside book. So I read a little bit of it every night and I am enjoying this one. I know that sometime this week I will not be able to put it down and it will become my daytime book. I know this. I can't really give a detailed description without giving away the plot for the first two. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's just starting the series, but let's just say it's YA fantasy, so no smutty times, but it does have a excellent plot, lots of teenage angst thrown in, and it is so well written and it is just so good. I mean, the world building, plot, the characters, you care about them all. It is just so good. Even the ones you think are, you just care. It's just so good. I am also currently reading Say It's Forever by Jackson. It's a romance with an anti-hero and a single mom in trouble forced into forced proximity, and the tension is hot and they can't resist each other. And he's the who did this to you. It's all the tropes that you want in a romance novel with a morally gray character. Wait a minute. He's not even morally gray. He's really in the black, but he has a conscience, I guess you can say. But he's done bad things. But he's really a good guy. He's good for her. It's my catnip in terms of romance novels. I love a good single mom. I love a good morally gray character. What's that say about me? I don't know. But I do love that in my romance novels. In fact, I love it in a lot of my novels. But anyway, I picked this one up at the new romance bookstore I was telling you about earlier here in Atlanta. It's called All the Tropes. I love that place. It's so cute. It is so niche, and I will talk about it, I promise, more on my IG soon. So make sure you're following me over there to hear more details about that. Anyway, I couldn't leave without buying a book. Hey, I had to support small businesses. And I got this one because I text Emily, our friend Emily, the title because I felt like it was familiar. And it's because she had just talked about it on her IG with a book and tea. And I think she texted me about it when she read it. Listen, I mean, that girl reads so much, sometimes I forget the books that she's read. But usually when a book sounds or looks familiar, it's because she's told me about it. So when I text her the cover, she's like, yeah. Remember? And I'm like, yes. And it was a good recommendation. I'm enjoying that one too. I am getting ready to listen to Flip the Tables by Alencia Johnson. And this book comes out today on the 11th. I heard her speak on a podcast, Ratchet and Respectable, last week and used one of my Libro FM credits to pre-order it. I'm going to read you the blurb. Most of us want our lives to have meaning and purpose, but too often we don't know where to start. Each of us has unique talents and gifts and perspectives that the world needs right now. We just have to find the courage to realize what they are. Flip the Tables is for people who have been told they cannot change the world even though they know otherwise. Being a change maker may sound like a lofty goal, but in truth, the world is waiting for the greatness in every one of us. You can create change right where you are. Flip the Tables will show you how. I loved listening to her advice on the podcast, and what she talked about really resonated with me. So I am really looking forward to this book and looking forward to hear how I can flip some tables. So I love it. It's a healthy, lovely reading life right now. I've got fantasy, I've got a romance, and I've got a nonfiction book, which is rare for me. So I am so proud of me. This is my happy place. It's just enough variety so that when my brain goes squirrel, I have something different to direct it to. And, being a mood reader, like I talked about last week, this is perfect for me. My happy place. Anyway, I am currently loving With Love, Megan. Megan Sussex, her show debuted on Netflix. And guys, it is a whole vibe. It reminds me of all the shows that I used to watch on Saturday morning on the Food Network back in the day. Like Barefoot Contessa, Nigella Lawson. What was that one? The Kitchen. There was one where Trisha Yearwood, was it? She had Trisha's Southern Table. There you had Down Home with the Neelys. You had Valerie's Cooking. You had Giada. You had 30-Minute Meals with, what's her name? Rachel Ray. these are the shows that I miss. And that is what Megan Sussex, her new show, really reminds me of. Like I told someone last week, if you followed her before she married Prince Harry when she had her blog, The Tig, this show is literally The Tig on video. It is just, it was a vibe then and it is a vibe now. It's peaceful, it's calming. It is just the balm that I needed right at this time. Just some simple joy, one pot pastas, few Le Creuset pans. I mean, what more can you ask for? It's just vibes, and more vibes. It's a good time. You have Netflix, make sure you check it out. Don't read the reviews because evidently the press didn't know what they're talking about because it got renewed for a second season and everybody on my timelines, threads, stories, that's all we talking about. Everyone loves that show. Anyway, currently looking forward to on Wednesday, tomorrow, I'm headed to see Miss Tracy Dion at a book signing here in Atlanta for Oathbound. I went in 3 bookstores this weekend. I'm about to get on my soapbox. I went in 3 bookstores this weekend and not one end cap. That's where you see the book at the end of the aisle, where they have the book prominently displayed. Not one of those. Or a whole table. Usually, they have these tables where they have like piles and piles of books on it. I didn't see any of that at any of the bookstores, like none of it. And I went to 3. Let me say that yes, Fourth Wing was a sensation, like Book Talk, Bookstagram, etc., etc. But there were books that have a display that, these books aren't even popular anymore. They've been out for years. And they're not even, or either there were some that weren't even that well known on TikTok. Like I know what they are because I'm in that genre. But even I will say, I was trying to figure out why it didn't get the same treatment. And I keep going back to maybe because it's YA fantasy. But still, I feel like this book should have been more prominently displayed. And it's very frustrating to say the least. The first bookstore I went into this weekend, it was displayed in the YA section, 1 book on the shelf, just 1 book. The next bookstore I went in, it was nowhere. I saw the first book because I was looking actively. I saw the first book, but that was it. I was about to ask when I heard someone ask for it, and the bookseller had to go in the back and bring out the book. So I was already annoyed by that. By the time I got to Barnes and Noble and saw 2 copies buried in a shelf and the books nowhere else in the store, this bookstore had a Black book section. So it's like and it was like all genres, and the book was nowhere to be found. I had to actively search for it. I went over that whole store looking for it. They had the first book in paperback on a table, but the actual book was just like I said, it was in the bookshelf, like just sitting there hidden. Like if you didn't know to look for it, it wasn't prominently displayed to say, hey, new book, 3rd in the series, 3rd in a popular series. It's like an afterthought, and I do not like it because how are Black authors supposed to get more exposure if the bookstores don't expose them? Especially, and this bothers me, especially because I've read both series and I don't like to compare, especially since they are really 2 different genres and 2 different type of writers. And one is romantasy and one is YA fantasy. But I can honestly say this because I've read both series and I've read a lot in both genres. Legend Bound is the better series without the smut, of course. And I think that is the difference. Sex sells and good writing does not anymore. And that's not to say that the Fourth Wing isn't good writing, because she's actually better than most, especially her story building in terms of even the romance. You can tell that she did something else before she got to fantasy writing. But Legendborn is the better written series. And it's frustrating because I feel like how are readers going to get exposed to more diverse books if people in charge of exposing them don't expose? I live in a diverse city and community here in the Atlanta area, and the bookstores I went to this weekend were in diverse areas. So there were whole sections on Black authors, and there's a good mix of books by Black authors and the other books. like there was no excuse, but it was nothing. And nevertheless, here we are. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox and end on a good note. That is the episode for today, friends. Please, 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 if you love the podcast, please be sure to hit that follow button. And if you can, please leave a good review on the podcast platform of your choice. It helps me grow and find new bookish friends. This was fun. So if you have I love doing this episode where I answered a reader question. So if you have any questions or topics you want me to discuss, please send me an email at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com or DM me on social media. Make sure you're following me on IG and TikTok at LaShawn Quilts and on my Substack, Letters to LaShawn, or you can just look up my name over there. Okay, friends, that is all. I will talk to you next week. Bye.